Lily was a cheerful little girl with big, curious eyes and long brown hair that she often tied in a ponytail. Her room was a treasure trove of toys and books, but her most prized possession was Mr. Snuggles, a soft, brown teddy bear with one floppy ear and a red bow around his neck. Mr. Snuggles had been her companion since she was a baby, and she never went to bed without him. One sunny afternoon, Lily returned from the park with her mom. She hurried upstairs to her room to grab Mr. Snuggles for their afternoon tea party. But to her surprise, he wasn't on her bed where she'd left him. She searched under the blankets, behind the pillows, and even inside the toy chest. But Mr. Snuggles was nowhere to be found. "Mom, have you seen Mr. Snuggles?" Lily called out, her voice tinged with worry. Her mom peeked into the room and shook her head. "I haven't, sweetheart. Did you check the living room?" Lily nodded and darted downstairs to look under the couch and behind the curtains, but Mr. Snuggles wasn't there either. Feeling a lump rise in her throat, Lily sat down on the carpet, clutching a small pillow for comfort. "Don't worry," her mom said, kneeling beside her. "I'm sure he'll turn up. Maybe he's off on a little adventure." An adventure? The thought sparked a tiny flicker of hope in Lily's heart. What if Mr. Snuggles really had gone somewhere? She decided to search every corner of the house and yard, just in case. As she checked the garden, she noticed something unusual near the fence. A tiny scrap of red fabric fluttered in the breeze. She picked it up and realized it looked just like a piece of Mr. Snuggles' bow. "Mr. Snuggles?" Lily gasped. She clutched the fabric and glanced around. Could he have gone through the fence? Was he trying to help someone? With her imagination running wild, Lily decided that if Mr. Snuggles was truly on an adventure, she'd do her best to find him and bring him home. That night, as she tucked herself into bed, Lily whispered to the stars outside her window, "Wherever you are, Mr. Snuggles, I hope you're safe. I'll find you, I promise." Little did she know, her beloved teddy bear was about to embark on a journey full of surprises, friendships, and bravery. A journey that would fill his heart with stories to share when he finally returned. Next morning, Lily woke up early, determined to follow the clue she had found, the little red scrap of fabric from Mr. Snuggles' bow. She hurriedly got dressed, pulling on her favorite green overalls and sneakers, and rushed outside to the garden where she had found the fabric the day before. The garden was quiet, with dewdrops still glistening on the flowers and grass. Lily crouched near the fence and examined the spot where she'd found the clue. The wooden planks of the fence had a small gap, just wide enough for a teddy bear to squeeze through. Beyond it was the neighbor's yard, a place she'd rarely explored. With a deep breath, Lily squeezed through the gap and stepped into the unfamiliar garden. It was wild and overgrown, with tall grass and patches of colorful wildflowers. She felt a little nervous but reminded herself that Mr. Snuggles might be here, and that thought gave her courage. As she wandered further into the yard, she spotted something unusual near a bush, a small button. It was shiny and golden, just like the ones on Mr. Snuggles' tummy. "Mr. Snuggles!" Lily exclaimed, her heart racing. She picked up the button and held it tightly in her hand. "You must have been here." She looked around and noticed a trail of bent grass and small footprints leading towards the back gate of the yard. It looked like someone had walked through, carrying something heavy. Lily followed the trail, her curiosity growing. She pushed open the creaky gate and found herself in an even wilder part of the neighborhood, a small, wooded area with tall trees and winding paths. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. In the distance, Lily thought she heard a faint rustling sound, as if someone or something was moving among the trees. "Hello?" she called out, clutching the button tightly. "Mr. Snuggles, is that you?" The rustling stopped, and for a moment, there was only silence. Then, a small squirrel darted out from behind a tree, chittering noisily. Lily laughed softly, her fear melting away. "Oh, it's just you," she said to the squirrel. But as she looked closer, she noticed something odd. The squirrel was holding a tiny piece of string in its mouth, a string that looked a lot like the one that tied Mr. Snuggles' bow. "Wait! Come back!" Lily called, running after the squirrel. The little creature scampered up a tree, dropping the string as it went. Lily picked it up and stared at it. She was getting closer, she just knew it. With renewed determination, she continued following the trail, her heart filled with hope and excitement. She had no idea what adventures lay ahead, but she was ready for anything if it meant finding Mr. Snuggles. Lily's footsteps crunched softly on the forest floor as she ventured deeper into the woods. The string she had found felt like another piece of a puzzle, leading her closer to Mr. Snuggles. She tucked it safely into her pocket alongside the golden button. The air was filled with the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves. Lily's heart raced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. What if she couldn't find him? Or worse, what if he was in trouble? Shaking the thought away, she focused on the trail ahead. As she rounded a bend, Lily spotted a tiny creature sitting on a fallen log. It was a chipmunk, its fur sleek and striped. The chipmunk's small paws were clutching something shiny, a tiny bell. Lily recognized it instantly. It was from the small charm bracelet she had once made for Mr. Snuggles. "Excuse me," Lily said softly, crouching down so as not to scare the chipmunk. "That bell belongs to my teddy bear. Have you seen him?" The chipmunk's nose twitched as it looked at Lily curiously. Then, as if understanding her, it squeaked and darted off the log, disappearing into the underbrush. "Wait!" Lily called, hurrying after it. The chipmunk led her through the trees, zigzagging along narrow trails and hopping over fallen branches. Finally, it stopped near a small clearing, where a hollowed-out tree trunk stood like a tiny house. The chipmunk disappeared inside but quickly re-emerged, holding a scrap of fabric in its mouth. Lily took the fabric and gasped. It was the same soft brown material as Mr. Snuggles' fur. "Thank you," Lily said, her voice full of gratitude. The chipmunk chirped happily and scurried back into its hollow. Lily examined the clearing closely. There were small paw prints leading away from the hollow and towards a bubbling brook that meandered through the woods. She followed the tracks, her determination growing stronger with every step. At the brook, Lily noticed something shimmering in the water. She knelt by the edge and reached in, pulling out a small golden star that had once been sewn onto Mr. Snuggles' paw. The sight of it filled her with both hope and longing. "You're leaving me clues, aren't you, Mr. Snuggles?" she whispered, clutching the star tightly. "I'll find you. I promise." Lily stood up and gazed across the brook, noticing a faint trail on the other side. She took a deep breath and waded through the shallow water, ready for whatever lay ahead. The woods were vast, but Lily's love for Mr. Snuggles was even greater. She was determined to bring him home. Lily's shoes squelched slightly as she stepped out of the brook, her socks damp but her spirit unwavering. The trail on the other side wound through the woods and soon opened into a sunny meadow. Wildflowers of every color swayed gently in the breeze, and the hum of bees filled the air. Lily paused to take in the beauty around her before focusing again on her mission. As she scanned the meadow, something caught her eye. Near a patch of daisies, a little bunny was hopping in circles, as if trying to catch its own tail. Its fur was soft and white, with a small patch of gray on its nose. "Hello there," Lily said, kneeling down to the bunny's level. The bunny stopped and tilted its head, its ears twitching curiously. That's when Lily noticed it. Around the bunny's neck was a tiny red ribbon tied into a bow. It looked just like the one that had been part of Mr. Snuggles' collar. Lily's heart skipped a beat. "Where did you get that ribbon?" she asked gently. The bunny wiggled its nose and hopped a few steps forward, glancing back at Lily as if beckoning her to follow. Lily got to her feet and followed the bunny through the meadow. It led her to a tall oak tree, its roots twisting and curling into little caves. The bunny stopped at one of the openings and nudged a small object forward with its nose. Lily crouched down to pick it up and realized it was another clue, a tiny button identical to the one she had found earlier. "Thank you," Lily said, stroking the bunny's soft fur. The bunny gave a small hop of approval and bounded off into the meadow. Lily examined the area around the oak tree. There were more tracks leading further into the woods, but before she could follow them, she heard a faint sound. It was almost like singing. The soft melodic tune seemed to float on the breeze, coming from the direction of the woods. "Mr. Snuggles," Lily whispered, her heart pounding. She stood up, clutching the button and the ribbon in her hands. Taking a deep breath, she headed toward the source of the sound, her steps quickening with anticipation. As she entered the woods once more, the singing grew louder. It wasn't just singing, it was a cheerful hum, interspersed with tiny giggles. Whoever it was, they were close. Lily's adventure was far from over, but for the first time, she felt like she was truly closing in on Mr. Snuggles. With every step, she reminded herself, "I'll find you, no matter what." She followed the sound of the cheerful singing, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and curiosity. The melody grew clearer as she moved deeper into the woods, winding through tall trees that swayed gently in the breeze. The forest opened up to reveal a quaint little workshop nestled under a large willow tree. The structure was made of mismatched wood, with colorful patches of fabric draped over the windows and a small chimney puffing out a curl of smoke. Lily tiptoed closer, peeking inside through the open doorway. Inside the workshop was a peculiar sight, a tiny toy maker no taller than a teacup. He had a round face, rosy cheeks, and a tuft of white hair sticking out from under a patchwork cap. He wore a coat made entirely of stitched-together buttons, and his tiny hands worked deftly on a small wooden toy. The toy maker was humming the same cheerful tune Lily had heard. Scattered around the workshop were all sorts of half-finished toys, wooden trains, stuffed animals, and dolls with mismatched eyes. But what caught Lily's attention most was the sight of a familiar object hanging on the wall, a tiny, frayed piece of red fabric. "Excuse me," Lily said, stepping inside. The toy maker looked up, startled but not unfriendly. "Well, hello there," he said in a squeaky but kind voice. "What brings a little girl like you to my workshop?" "I'm looking for my teddy bear, Mr. Snuggles," Lily explained, holding up the clues she'd found: the button, the ribbon, and the fabric scrap. "Have you seen him? That piece of fabric looks like it's from his bow." The toy maker adjusted his tiny spectacles and peered at the fabric. "Ah, yes, I remember now. That little bear came through here just yesterday. Quite the noble fellow, if I might say so. He was here." Lily's eyes lit up. "Where is he now?" The toy maker smiled. "He was helping me repair a toy that had been lost in the forest. Such a kind heart, that bear. When he left, he said he had more work to do, helping others, I think." But he left this behind. The toymaker reached into a small drawer and pulled out a golden thread. He asked me to give this to anyone who came looking for him. Said it would guide them to where he is. Lily took the thread, feeling a surge of hope. Thank you so much. I'll follow it right away. Be careful, young one, the toymaker said with a wink. The journey ahead might be tricky, but I believe you'll find your way. With the golden thread clutched tightly in her hand, Lily stepped out of the workshop and back into the forest. The thread shimmered faintly, pulling gently in one direction, as if it knew the way. Lily followed it, her heart filled with determination and the promise of reuniting with Mr. Snuggles. Held the golden thread tightly, watching as it shimmered faintly in the dappled sunlight filtering through the forest canopy. It tugged gently in her hand, almost as if it had a life of its own, guiding her forward. Every step brought her closer to Mr. Snuggles, and the hope in her heart grew stronger. The forest around her grew quieter, the cheerful hum of insects replaced by a serene stillness. Lily followed the golden thread as it led her through a winding path bordered by moss-covered stones and delicate ferns. The air felt cooler, and a soft golden light seemed to illuminate her way, making the journey feel magical. As Lily continued, she came across a small clearing where a wooden bridge stretched across a sparkling stream. The thread pointed across the bridge, but standing in the middle of it was a fox. Its fur was bright orange, and its eyes glimmered with curiosity. Draped around its neck was a piece of fabric that looked startlingly familiar. Lily stepped cautiously onto the bridge. "Excuse me," she said softly. "That piece of fabric, it's from my teddy bear, Mr. Snuggles. Have you seen him?" The fox tilted its head and gave a sly grin. "Ah, the noble bear. He passed this way not long ago, helping a lost doll find her way back to her owner. He left this for you." The fox reached into a pouch tied around its neck and pulled out a small, stuffed heart made of soft red felt. Lily recognized it immediately as the heart she had stitched onto Mr. Snuggles' chest when his old one had fallen off. "Thank you," Lily said, her eyes shining as she took the heart. "Do you know where he went?" The fox nodded, its tail swishing. "Follow the golden thread. It will lead you to him. But be wary. The path ahead is tricky, and you must stay brave." Lily nodded firmly. "I will. Thank you for helping me." The fox stepped aside, allowing Lily to cross the bridge. As she walked, the golden thread began to glow even brighter, urging her forward. On the other side of the bridge, the forest grew denser, and the light dimmed slightly. The path twisted and turned, but the thread never wavered, pulling her gently in the right direction. Lily's footsteps slowed as she approached another clearing. This one was larger and bathed in a warm, golden glow. In the center stood a circle of toadstools, and within it was something that made her gasp. A tiny footprint made of stuffing, the kind found inside her teddy bear. "Mr. Snuggles was here," she whispered, clutching the heart close to her chest. She felt a surge of determination. The thread tugged her onward, and Lily stepped carefully through the clearing, following the faint trail of clues her beloved bear had left behind. Her adventure wasn't over yet, but she could feel it in her heart. She was getting closer. Mr. Snuggles was waiting, and Lily wouldn't stop until she found him. The golden thread shimmered softly in Lily's hand as she stepped carefully through the clearing. The faint imprint of stuffing on the ground filled her with renewed hope. She was close, so close, to finding Mr. Snuggles. The thread tugged gently forward, leading her deeper into the forest, where the trees grew taller and the air felt cooler. As Lily followed the path, she noticed the forest beginning to change. The trees seemed to lean closer together, their branches intertwining above her to form a canopy. Their trunks were etched with strange markings that almost looked like faces. At first, Lily thought her eyes were playing tricks on her, but then she heard it, a soft whispering sound, like voices carried on the wind. Lily paused and looked around. "Hello," she called. Her voice echoed softly through the trees. "Who comes this way?" whispered a deep, gentle voice. Lily spun around to see one of the tree trunks shifting, its markings forming into a face with kind, wise eyes. "I'm Lily," she said, clutching the golden thread tightly. "I'm looking for my teddy bear, Mr. Snuggles. Have you seen him?" The tree's face smiled faintly. "Ah, the brave little bear. He passed through here, helping a young bird find its way back to its nest. Such a noble heart he has. Do you know where he went?" Lily asked eagerly. The tree's branches swayed as it considered. "He ventured toward the heart of the forest. But be wary, young one. The path is not easy, and you must prove your courage." Lily nodded firmly. "I'll do whatever it takes to find him." The tree seemed pleased with her determination. Its branches parted, revealing a narrow path bathed in a soft, golden light. "Follow this trail, and listen closely to the whispers of the forest. They will guide you." "Thank you," Lily said, her voice full of gratitude. As she walked along the path, the whispers grew clearer. They weren't just random noises. They were words of encouragement. "You're doing well," one voice said. "Don't give up," murmured another. The golden thread guided her to a large, ancient tree at the center of the forest. Its trunk was massive, and its roots stretched out like giant arms. Carved into the tree's bark was a small doorway, just the right size for Lily. The thread tugged her toward the door, but before she could open it, a voice stopped her. "Only the kind and brave may enter." "I am kind and brave," Lily said confidently. "I've followed every clue, and I won't stop until I find Mr. Snuggles." The door creaked open slowly, revealing a warm, glowing light inside. Taking a deep breath, Lily stepped through, her heart pounding with anticipation. Whatever lay beyond this door, she knew it would bring her closer to her beloved teddy bear. As Lily stepped through the glowing doorway, she felt a warm breeze against her face. The golden light inside the ancient tree grew brighter, guiding her down a spiraling staircase made of roots and soft moss. Each step seemed to hum with life, and Lily's heart beat faster with every moment. At the bottom of the staircase, Lily entered a vast chamber filled with a gentle, golden glow. The walls were made of intertwining roots that pulsed faintly with light, and the air was filled with the soft sound of music, like a lullaby carried on the wind. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal made of smooth stone, and atop it sat something that made Lily's heart leap, Mr. Snuggles. Her beloved teddy bear looked just as she remembered him, with his floppy ear, red bow, now slightly frayed, and kind button eyes. But he wasn't alone. Surrounding him were small, glowing forest creatures, tiny fairies with wings that sparkled like dew, and woodland animals with soft fur that shimmered in the light. They seemed to be tending to Mr. Snuggles, as if preparing him for something important. "Mr. Snuggles!" Lily cried, running toward the pedestal. At her voice, the creatures turned to look at her, their eyes twinkling with curiosity and kindness. Mr. Snuggles' button eyes seemed to brighten, and Lily could almost swear he smiled. One of the fairies, a tiny being with golden hair and wings like butterfly petals, flew up to Lily and spoke in a voice like a bell. "You've come far, little one. Your love and courage have brought you here." "I've been looking everywhere for him," Lily said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I miss him so much." The fairy nodded. "Mr. Snuggles has been on a great journey, helping others who were lost. But he's been waiting for you, too. Only someone with a kind and brave heart could find their way here." Lily reached out and gently picked up Mr. Snuggles. Holding him close, she felt the familiar softness of his fur and the comfort he always brought her. "I'll never let you go again," she whispered. The chamber seemed to glow even brighter, and the fairies and animals began to sing a soft, joyful melody. The fairy with golden hair smiled. "Your bond with Mr. Snuggles is special. It's what brought him back home to you. But remember, his kindness is part of what makes him so special. Share that kindness with others, and his adventures will continue in your heart." Lily nodded, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I promise. Thank you for taking care of him." The golden thread in her hand shimmered one last time before dissolving into a gentle light. Lily looked around the chamber, filled with gratitude for the magical creatures and the journey that had brought her and Mr. Snuggles back together. As she held her teddy bear close, the light in the chamber began to fade, and Lily found herself back in the clearing with the toadstool circle. The golden doorway was gone, but Mr. Snuggles was safe in her arms, and her heart was full. "Let's go home, Mr. Snuggles," she said with a smile, heading back toward the familiar path through the forest. The adventure had changed her, filling her with courage, love, and a deeper appreciation for the magic of kindness. With Mr. Snuggles held tightly in her arms, Lily stepped back into the familiar forest clearing. The golden light from the magical chamber had faded, but its warmth lingered in her heart. The toadstool circle seemed to glow faintly, as if bidding her farewell. "We're going home, Mr. Snuggles," Lily whispered, stroking his floppy ear. The path back through the forest felt different now. The trees no longer seemed towering and mysterious. Instead, they felt like old friends watching over her. The whispers of encouragement she had heard earlier still echoed softly in her mind, giving her strength with every step. As Lily followed the winding trail, she noticed familiar landmarks: the wooden bridge where the fox had helped her, the clearing with the chipmunk's hollow, and the meadow where the bunny had led her to another clue. Each place felt like a chapter in her adventure, and she smiled, grateful for the kindness she had encountered along the way. When she reached the edge of the forest, the warm glow of the setting sun greeted her. Beyond the trees lay her house, its windows shining like beacons of comfort. Lily's heart swelled with happiness. "We made it, Mr. Snuggles," she said, hugging him tightly. As she stepped into her garden, her mom's voice called out, "Lily, there you are. I've been so worried." Her mom rushed over and knelt beside her, pulling her into a warm hug. "Where have you been, sweetheart? And is that Mr. Snuggles?" Lily nodded, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. "He went on an adventure, Mom. He was helping others, and I went to find him. The forest is so magical." Her mom smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "It sounds like you've both had quite the journey. I'm so glad you're safe." That evening, Lily and her mom sat together in her cozy bedroom. Mr. Snuggles had his special spot back on the bed, propped up against Lily's pillow. As the moonlight streamed through the window, Lily told her mom all about the golden thread, the kind animals, the fairies, and the magical toy maker. Her mom listened with wide eyes and a warm smile. That sounds like a story you'll remember forever. And Mr. Snuggles will always remind you of the courage and kindness it took to bring him home. As Lily snuggled under her blankets with Mr. Snuggles by her side, she felt a sense of peace and wonder. The journey had been challenging, but it had also shown her the magic of love, bravery, and kindness. She closed her eyes, drifting off to sleep with the promise of new adventures waiting in her dreams. The next morning, Lily woke up feeling a warmth in her heart. Mr. Snuggles was right by her side, just like he had always been. But something was different now. Their adventure had brought a new meaning to their bond, and Lily knew she would never forget the lessons she had learned. Sitting by the window, with the sunlight streaming in, Lily looked at Mr. Snuggles and smiled. "We did it, Mr. Snuggles. We found our way back home." Her mom came into the room, carrying a tray of breakfast. "Good morning, adventurer," she said with a smile. "Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded. "I did. And I learned something really important." Her mom tilted her head, curious. "What's that, sweetheart?" Lily hugged Mr. Snuggles tightly. "I learned that kindness is the most magical thing of all. Mr. Snuggles helped so many others, and because of that, I was able to find him. When we help others, we make the world a little brighter." Her mom's eyes sparkled with pride. "That's a beautiful lesson, Lily. And you were so brave to follow your heart and bring him home." Lily spent the rest of the day playing with Mr. Snuggles and imagining all the new adventures they could have together. But now, she knew that every adventure, whether big or small, was an opportunity to spread kindness and courage. Moral of the story: kindness and bravery can lead to the most magical adventures. By helping others and following your heart, you can find your way, no matter how challenging the journey might be. Hi friends! Did you enjoy Lily and Mr. Snuggles' magical adventure? If you loved this story as much as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales and fun adventures. Share this story with someone who might need a little extra kindness in their day. And remember, every act of kindness makes the world a brighter place. Let us know in the comments what's your favorite adventure you've been on, or what kindness have you shared with others. See you in the next story.